Solomonster here with a special Sound Off Extra update for November 13, 2019. I just wrapped up my AEW Dynamite stream, which you could listen to every Wednesday live here on the YouTube channel. And I figured, I've got the microphone already hooked up, and I've already been getting emails with all of the questions about this, so why not talk about something else that happened in the last 24 hours, that being the return of this CM Punk guy on WWE Backstage. So I'm sure everybody by now has heard about what happened just the other night. WWE Backstage, it's the studio show on FS1. They have Renee Young and they have Samoa Joe as their guest analyst and Booker T and Paige. This week they had Adam Cole, the NXT champion, in studio with them. And at the very end of the show, as they're getting ready to go off the air, Renee Young, who apparently was the only one in the know, they kept this a secret from everybody else on the set. Nobody else knew this was about to happen. Renee was the only one who knew. And Renee Young says, in WWE, you like to make epic moments. And we've got one here and now. And all of a sudden, we hear Cult of Personality. And out walks CM Punk. And Punk walks out and he walks over to the set where everybody is standing. He walks over to the camera. He looks into the camera. He says, "When they think they have all the answers, I change the culture." And he says he'll see everybody next week. He gives Renee a big high five, and they cut off. Right then and there, they go off the air. Talk about an underwhelming return after nearly 6 years away from doing anything publicly with pro wrestling. Forget the indie shows where he put a mask on like he's fucking Evil Uno from AEW or something, sneaking around, doing little indie shots. This is the first time in almost 6 years that this man has done anything even remotely connected on television to pro wrestling. And he walks out on set, no live audience, just walks out. "Hi, guys." This is not the return that most people envisioned, I don't think, for CM Punk. But, hey, they gave him his old music at least. It was good to hear Cult of Personality again. And here was something else I thought was cool. Samoa Joe, who's out, he's been nursing a thumb injury. I have no idea how much longer he's going to be out for. I don't know if he had surgery or he's got a cast on his thumb. Anyway, that's why you haven't seen Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe is there, and he's standing within a few feet of Punk. In the background, big smile on his face. And you think of the history these two guys have, going back to their Ring of Honor days. I don't know when the last time the two of them even spoke or interacted or saw each other. I thought that was pretty cool, seeing them next to each other like that. I thought it was very smart to save him for the very end of the show like that. And now we're going to find out. Now we are going to find out what kind of drawing power the name CM Punk actually has here in 2019, at least in studio. I know it's not the same thing. It's not in the ring. He's not walking out in front of an arena, full of 10,000 people. It's not the same thing, but they have now teased the return of CM Punk to WWE programming. You got to tune in next week. I'm going to be here next week, guys. Tune in. See you then. We're going to find out how much of a draw he really still is all these years later. I think this is a good first test for what kind of appetite there is for people to want to tune in and see CM Punk. You never know what he might say. Are they going to interview him? Maybe they'll take a few minutes and they'll do an interview with him. There's a lot of people out there, very casual fans who may have been CM Punk fans, who maybe they know that he did some fighting, but they don't keep up with what he's been doing. Is there a curiosity factor there? Are there a ton of people who all of a sudden are going to tune in at 11 o'clock next Tuesday to see CM Punk? We're going to find out. Fox was very swift in putting a press release out saying Phil Brooks, better known as CM Punk, joins WWE Backstage as a special contributor and analyst. He will make select appearances in studio alongside Renee Young and analyst Booker T. So Punk's going to be popping up on Backstage, not every week. He will not be on the show every week, but he is now officially a part of the show. Before I get to the rest of the Punk stuff, I want to talk about here, they made some other announcements on Backstage last night. They announced the multi-year signings of The Miz and Paige, who have signed new multi-year contracts with WWE. It's very odd to me since Miz just signed a new multi-year deal last year. It was in February of last year. He signed what was said at the time to be a new 4-year contract. And now here he is signing another new deal, I guess that supersedes the old deal that he signed. So he's pretty much going to be a WWE lifer. This new deal, said to be 6 years, is going to take him through the year 2025. So The Miz is pretty much a lifer in that company, which I think most people figured. I mean, why would The Miz leave? For God's sakes, I mean, look, this company has given this guy everything. He met his wife. He's got 2 kids. Making good money. He's making WWE films, movies. And all things considered, when you think about it, I know he's not hot right now on TV, but he's had a pretty good career. World champion, headlined to WrestleMania, beat John Cena, Intercontinental champion multiple times, United States champion, tag team champion. Not a bad run. Not a bad run at all. He's built a Hall of Fame, a WWE Hall of Fame career for himself. So why would he leave? Then you got Paige. Paige is interesting in that she signed a new deal, a 4-year deal. It's going to keep her with the company through the year 2023. And that tells me that she is resigned to not wrestling again. You know, you have to think that if she had the itch, like I'm sure Daniel Bryan had, and Daniel Bryan, I fully believe, was ready to bounce at the end of his contract and go work somewhere else, and we would have seen him in Mexico. We would have seen him in New Japan. You know, maybe we would have seen him back in ROH. He eats, sleeps, and breathes pro wrestling. But once he got an inkling of the fact that he might be able to come back, you know, he's stuck with WWE. Paige has been told outright, you're not going to be cleared. You're not going to be medically cleared. We will not clear you. You will not wrestle. If she wanted to wrestle that bad, she could have let her contract run down and gone and wrestled somewhere else. So she seems resigned to putting that behind her. And you know what? If her condition is such that she shouldn't be in the ring, then good for her. I don't want to see her in the ring. I don't want to see her all crippled up. This woman's got scoliosis on top of everything else. So she's going to be sticking around for a while. The other news, and I have not yet seen NXT tonight. So from what I understand, Finn Balor now has a new opponent for Survivor Series. But the original plans for Survivor Series weekend, I should say, the NXT TakeOver show that weekend, the original plan was for Finn Balor to wrestle Johnny Gargano. Well, Johnny Gargano is out. Speaking of injuries, he is out of NXT TakeOver War Games due to a neck injury, the severity of which has not been revealed. I don't know if it's bad enough that he's going to need neck surgery. I hope for his sake that's not the case, because if it is, he's going to be out for a while. But all we've been told is that he has a neck injury. And, you know, that would explain why we really have not seen much of him on television now for the last couple of months. So that frees Balor up for a new opponent, who I will not name for those who have not yet watched NXT. And who knows, you know, maybe it frees up Balor to do more than just wrestle on the TakeOver show that weekend. You know, he's not going to be busy at Survivor Series. Maybe he gets involved in one of those matches. Maybe he can help give Team NXT a win in the men's Survivor Series match. Or maybe he comes out during the triple threat. AJ Styles, Roderick Strong, Shinsuke Nakamura. You know, the OC maybe thinks he's there to help him out, and instead he costs AJ the match. Although that probably is the match that I hope does not end with some kind of outside interference, because that would be very disappointing. Back to CM Punk. This was not a big surprise. We already knew that he had auditioned for the role. This was hardly a secret. Punk openly talked about it. He did interviews admitting his agent came to him. He went to California, to LA. He did the audition. He didn't know how it went. This was public knowledge. And I've seen a lot of people back and forth, a lot of people arguing, yelling at each other. He's not with WWE, he's with Fox. Other people saying, well, it's all the same thing. And then it just degenerates into these horrible arguments online. He's working for Fox. He is not technically working for WWE. That is true. PW Insider confirmed it is a Fox deal only, at least for now. This is how it starts. WWE did give their blessing for them to add him to the show. And why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they? This is a show, this WWE Backstage. This is a show that did less than 50,000 viewers last week. They did not even chart in the top 150 shows on all of cable last Tuesday. Now, there was a college basketball show of some kind that aired before Backstage last week that did 17,000 viewers. So by comparison, the 49,000 that WWE did last week was an improvement. But when was the last time that a WWE show had an overnight viewership of less than 50,000 people? It's mind-boggling. Even on a network like FS1, maybe it's not as widely available as USA. So what? It's almost incomprehensible that a WWE show would have viewership that low. Now, the deal with Punk was apparently finalized in just the last few days. He auditioned last month, but the deal wasn't done until a few days ago. No shit. You don't say. Of course it was. Of course it was. Are you kidding me? They couldn't agree to a deal fast enough when those numbers came in last week. 49,000. They could not ink, the ink on the contract could not dry quick enough for the executives at Fox to get CM Punk. Now, what does this mean for a potential return to WWE? Nobody can say for sure. The only person who knows that is CM Punk. Only CM Punk knows. If CM Punk wants to come back to WWE, believe me, Vince McMahon and Triple H, even though Triple H, I'm sure on a personal level, I mean, you can't tell me that Triple H loves this guy, but they know how to do business, and you can't tell me that if Punk wanted to come back to WWE, he would not be welcomed back with open arms. So the ball's in his court. I do think it is inevitable that CM Punk will be back in a ring with WWE at some point, just not anytime soon. There will be no WrestleMania 36 match. So I think people need to pump the brakes on this idea that, oh, he's back and he's going to be on Raw or he's going to be, Fox is going to want him on SmackDown. I'm sure they would. But this idea that in a month or 2 or 3, Punk is going to be back and they're going to set up his program at the Royal Rumble for WrestleMania, I don't see it. But I do see this as being step one. He will be back. And I think you need to consider a few things. Number one, Punk has been very public about the fact that the past isn't in the past. Especially, he did this interview last month with Collider, which was actually a very good interview. He was very open. He was very honest. He was in studio for about an hour or so with these guys. And his attitude seemed to be almost like Brett 12 years after Montreal. All that bad blood. I'll never go back. These people fucked me. They screwed me. And he came back. He let bygones be bygones. And that was the vibe I got from Punk in that Collider interview. So I don't want to say he's been more complimentary of WWE. I mean, these are the people that he feels, didn't give a shit about him and mistreated him, fired him on his wedding day. Believe me, there's still a lot of bad blood underneath. But he seems to have softened recently. Now you couple that with the fact WWE, look at the state of WWE right now. And I know it's easy for me to sit here and say, forget the fact that they're getting billions from USA and Fox, and forget the fact they're getting millions of dollars from the Saudi prince. They are. They're actually making quite a bit of money off those deals. Now, if those deals were to go away, they'd be in a lot of trouble. But it's not anything they're going to have to worry about in the next few years. They've got a lot of money coming in mainly from those two things, the TV deals and the Saudi deal. However, one fact remains. WWE continues to lose viewers year after year. They are hemorrhaging viewers. People are giving up on Monday Night Raw. They're giving up on SmackDown. I think it's more a Raw problem. Now that they're on Fox, the SmackDown viewership is actually higher than Raw on most weeks. which is something that you would have expected because Fox is network TV, USA is not. So you're going to have a wider pool of people who can watch your show. But people are giving up. And I'm hearing from them. Now, this is just a small part of the audience, but I can just speak for myself. You want to use me and my show as a sample size, and I'm sure other podcasters and YouTubers would say the same thing. I constantly get emails and tweets from people saying, I only keep up with WWE or even just wrestling in general. I mean, some people won't even bother with AEW or NWA or anything else. They've just given up, and they only keep up with what's going on through the Sound Off and through other shows. It's gotten to the point with a lot of people, they are more entertained on most weeks by listening to people like me, schmucks like me, and other people, than actually watching the shows. Now, I'm grateful, but even I think, hey, you know what? There's something wrong here. That just doesn't feel right. Now, why is this happening? It's happening more and more and more. So yeah, you can keep making all the money you want to off these TV deals, but at what cost? Long term, they're doing a lot of damage with these shows. And they're still waiting on that next big star to come along and save them. So they rely more and more and more in the meantime on big names and star power from the past. And not just for sweet Saudi money cash grabs. You've got Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair and Steve Austin. I feel like I've seen these guys on my TV more than I did during the Monday Night War in the last few months. If you don't think that WWE wouldn't make a play for CM Punk, who has said when asked what would it take to get you back in the ring, he has said a big bag. He's been very honest. A big bag is what it would take to get me back in the ring. You don't think, as they continue to lose viewers, that they wouldn't make a play to bring CM Punk back to television? You know they're only one horrendous rating away from picking up that phone and calling over to Chicago. This is no different than the Ultimate Warrior or Bill Goldberg signing their own deals with 2K independent of WWE. That's how it all started. Those deals paved the way for them to make nice and get back together with WWE. It started with 2K. This will end up being no different. Fox is the conduit through which WWE and CM Punk, ultimately, however many more months it may take, are going to make up. They're going to make nice. And whether it's full-time, part-time, one match, WrestleMania, I think he said he would never go to Saudi Arabia, so we'll put that on the side. But it has paved the way for CM Punk to make his eventual return to the ring. Now, if that were to happen, because I know I'm going to get questions about this, so I'm trying to proactively answer some of these questions. When you ask about, well, what CM Punk match is there that would be considered a dream match? What CM Punk match is there that really gets you excited? When you look up and down the roster in WWE, what potential opponent for Punk gets you excited? I'll be honest with you, right now, there is none. There is no one big dream match in WWE for CM Punk. I'm sure him against some of the guys on that roster, and especially in NXT, would have very good matches together. But Punk's been out of the ring for 6 years almost. So who's to say that you would get the same CM Punk that you remember from 2013 and 2012 and 2014? But when I look up and down the Raw roster and I look up and down the SmackDown roster, I mean, my God, there's nothing that really jumps out at me that says, oh boy, I can't wait to see that match. Seth Rollins went on Twitter, or so I'm told, because I can't see, but Seth Rollins went on Twitter and said, CM Punk, fight me. Fight me. Fight me. Thinks he's fucking Aleister Black now, this guy. I don't care about seeing Seth Rollins against CM Punk. Why? Because they were together in NXT that one time? Who cares? Who gives a shit? That match doesn't excite me. Punk and Daniel Bryan? That would be cool to see one more time. But I would hardly call it some kind of dream match. We've already seen it. Punk and Samoa Joe. That might be it for me. That might be again, there's no dream match. But in terms of a match that would appeal to me, Punk and Joe, that might be it for me. And I know it's not the same Samoa Joe of old. He's dealing with a lot more injuries. He's heavier. It's not the same. Not the same CM Punk and Samoa Joe that were together in ROH. But with their history, I think that can make for a fun build. And you've got two guys here who know how to talk. You put a microphone in their hand and it's fucking gold. Punk and AJ Styles, that's kind of interesting to me. Styles came in after Punk had already left 2 years later. You know, there was supposedly heat between the two of them at one time, years before they came to WWE. This is going back to like the early to mid 2000s. And I think, I could be wrong, I don't know the full background here, but I think it may have stemmed from some stuff that Punk said about AJ in a promo that he did in Ring of Honor. It actually might have been the night that he signed his WWE contract in Ring of Honor. He may have made some disparaging comments that AJ Styles was not very happy about. Whatever it is, whatever the source of the heat was, you know, maybe now they're cool, who knows. I'm sure they would be willing to do business together if they were asked to. But if you ask me, well, what's the dream match? The dream match was very simple. The dream match was very easy. The dream match was with Stone Cold Steve Austin. After the build to the video game and that sit-down interview for 2K13 that they did with Jim Ross, which had nothing to do with WWE. That was all 2K, and I think Paul Heyman helped out with that shoot. But that had nothing to do, ironically, with WWE. It was a non-WWE production that got me the most interested in seeing a match that I never had any chance of actually seeing. That was the dream match, and that ship sailed long ago. Actually, that ship never even left the dock. It never even left port. Austin was never coming back. He has been playing games for years whenever people ask him about it. He was never coming back. It's easy now to look back and see. He was never coming back, so that ship never even left the dock. Speaking of dock, that may be the match I'm looking forward to the most, if he ever does come back. CM Punk against Dr. Raymond. First one to climb the ladder and pull down the Z-Pack wins. And feels better. But just to wrap up the Punk stuff, my question would be, and the real curiosity that I have, what kind of drawing power, if any, does CM Punk have left after 6 years away? 6 years gone from WWE, 6 years away from television, the defeats that he suffered in UFC. And yeah, you know, you can look at it and say, boy, you know, he had some balls to go in there and get his face caved in. He had more balls than most people would have. Well, yeah, I wouldn't go into the octagon and get my face pounded in. Although if you flashed $1 million check in my face, I probably would. I could take part of that money and get my face fixed. But hey, you know, he had a dream he wanted to pursue. And it was, you know, he put the effort in, he put the work in, he trained, and it didn't work out. Frankly, it was kind of embarrassing. What effect is that going to have? Is it going to have any effect at all? Are people going to even remember the fact that he got mangled in his UFC fights? With some people, it will. It will affect their perception of him. Although I really don't think that's going to end up being much of a big deal. I can remember a time when Jonathan Coachman was on ESPN talking about when Ronda Rousey lost for the first time, and then talking about if she ever goes to WWE, she's got no credibility and she lost, and, you know, the guy's a frickin' clown. Of course, it had no effect whatsoever on her WWE run. So you could say that maybe it won't affect Punk. But what kind of drawing power is left 6 years later? Does anybody care? Clearly some people do. Clearly, I mean, look at his name has been trending all day. People have been talking nonstop about this guy, and not just overnight. For years, they chant his name at the buildings, less so now, but for years they would chant CM Punk. The guy didn't want to have anything to do with wrestling, and they would still chant his name. So yes, there is a segment of the audience that actually gives a shit about CM Punk. My question is, how big? How big of an audience sample is it? And we're going to get a sense of that next week when the ratings come in for next week's show. And you can bet your ass Fox is not just going to be watching. WWE, Vince McMahon, they're going to be watching too. But as things get more dire and their numbers continue to drop, it's only a matter of time before somebody picks up the phone and makes that phone call. And if they're willing to pay the money, I think Punk is willing to listen. And if he's willing to listen, it's only a matter of time before he makes his way back to the ring. But for now, he's a Fox employee. And he gets to come on TV and talk about WWE. which I find fascinating because I believe there was an interview he did where he said he doesn't even watch wrestling. So yeah, he's going to be an analyst on this WWE show, but he doesn't watch WWE. I suspect that will now change. And it's kind of like Eric Bischoff when they brought him in to lead SmackDown. That didn't last very long. I don't get the sense that Bischoff was watching WWE week to week. He had to go through the whole learning process and get all caught up on storylines and creative and who the people were. I don't think there'll be as much of a learning curve for Punk. He already knows some of these people. He was friends with some of them. But yeah, if he hasn't been paying attention to wrestling too much, he's going to have to get all caught up. And we'll see. We'll see what kind of drawing power, if any, he's got left. But that's the update on CM Punk. I'm sure will be a lot will be said by a lot of different shows about him in the coming weeks. But yes, he is a Fox employee right now and not WWE. Keyword, keywords for now. I'll see you for episode 626 of the Sound Off this Sunday. Go back and listen to my AEW live stream, Dynamite. It was a good show tonight. We had a good stream, about an hour long. That's up on the YouTube channel as well. Hit that thumbs up button, and I will see you guys for more Sound Off this weekend. Until then, take care, guys.